Have you ever wondered about the celestial beings that stand guard at the very throne of God? Enter the realm of the seraphim, perhaps the most awe-inspiring of all angelic beings. These fiery guardians, with their enigmatic presence and profound symbolism, have captivated the imaginations of believers and scholars alike.
We ought not to think that the Godhead is like unto gold, or silver, or stone.
Let's embark on an exploration of these extraordinary creatures and uncover the mysteries they hold. The Seraphim, fiery guardians of the divine throne. When it comes to the hierarchy of angels, the Seraphim stand out as the most illustrious and powerful. These beings are not just any celestial entities, they are the fiery guardians of God's throne, a concept deeply rooted in Christian theology and mysticism. The very name seraphim stems from the Hebrew word seraph, which means to burn. This nomenclature itself speaks volumes about their nature.
And why do thoughts arise in your hearts? Behold my hands and my feet, that it is I myself.
They are not just luminous, but ablaze with divine fire. The most detailed account of the seraphim comes from the Old Testament, specifically in the book of Isaiah. In the 6th chapter, the prophet Isaiah recounts a vision that is nothing short of breathtaking. He describes seeing the Lord seated on a high and lofty throne, and above him stood the seraphim, each with 6 wings. With 2 wings they covered their faces, with 2 they covered their feet, and with the remaining 2 they flew. This vivid imagery is not just about physical appearance. It symbolizes deep reverence and humility in the presence of the divine. Now, why 6 wings? It's a question that theologians and scholars have pondered over centuries. The wings covering the face and feet could be seen as a gesture of utmost respect and an acknowledgement of their own unworthiness in the face of God's holiness. Meanwhile, the 2 wings used for flying signify their readiness to serve and obey God's commands. This portrayal sets the seraphim apart as beings of pure worship and obedience, dedicated entirely to the glorification of God. The role of the seraphim goes beyond mere guardianship. They are active participants in the heavenly worship. As Isaiah observed, they continuously proclaim the holiness of God, chanting, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory." This chant, known as the Trisagion, is not just a repetitive hymn. It reflects the eternal truth of God's unchanging nature and the infinite reach of his glory. But what about their appearance? Often depicted in art and literature as beings of light and fire, the seraphim's actual appearance remains a divine mystery. They are described as fiery or flaming, suggesting an otherworldly brilliance that is perhaps too overwhelming for human eyes. This portrayal resonates with the idea that the divine presence is often associated with fire in biblical narratives, a symbol of purification, holiness, and divine power. Intriguingly, the seraphim's presence in Isaiah's vision is not just for show. They play a crucial role in Isaiah's calling as a prophet. When Isaiah confesses his unworthiness, one of the seraphim flies to him with a live coal from the altar and touches his lips, symbolically purifying him and preparing him for his prophetic mission. This act signifies the seraphim's role as intermediaries between God and humanity, facilitating communication and divine interaction. The influence of the seraphim extends beyond the Judeo-Christian traditions. They have found a place in Islamic lore as well, where they are often associated with light and purity. Additionally, their representation has evolved over time in Christian art, where they are typically depicted with fiery red or orange wings, symbolizing their burning love and zeal for God. Isaiah's vision, a profound biblical event. The book of Isaiah, a cornerstone of biblical prophecy, contains one of the most profound and mystifying visions in the entire scripture, the vision of the prophet Isaiah about the seraphim. This event, recorded in the 6th chapter of Isaiah, offers not just a glimpse into the celestial realm, but also conveys profound theological and spiritual meanings. The impact of this vision on Christian thought and its rich symbolism cannot be overstated. Isaiah's vision occurred at a critical juncture, just after the death of King Uzziah. This was a time of uncertainty and transition for the kingdom of Judah. Isaiah, in a state of deep contemplation, finds himself transported to a divine courtroom, the setting for his extraordinary encounter. He sees the Lord seated on a high and lofty throne, the hem of his robe filling the temple. This imagery alone sets a tone of majesty and grandeur, but it is what Isaiah sees next that forms the crux of the vision: the seraphim. These celestial beings, positioned above the throne of God, are described in vivid detail. Each seraph has 6 wings. With 2 they cover their faces, with 2 they cover their feet, and with 2 they fly. The covering of their faces and feet symbolizes their humility and reverence in the presence of the divine, while the wings used for flying denote their readiness for service. This portrayal reinforces the holiness and unapproachability of God, as even these exalted creatures cannot directly gaze upon or stand fully exposed before him. The seraphim are not silent spectators. They cry out to one another in a chant that echoes through the heavenly realm. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory. This triple declaration of holiness, known as the Trisagion, is significant. The repetition of holy 3 times is not mere emphasis. It symbolizes completeness and perfection. In the Hebrew tradition, repetition signifies emphasis and absoluteness, thus portraying God's absolute holiness. The response to this chant is as dramatic as the vision itself. The foundations of the thresholds shook at the voice of those who called, and the house was filled with smoke. This description adds an almost tangible intensity to the vision, merging the sensory experiences of sound and sight to create an overwhelming sense of God's power and majesty. Isaiah's reaction to this vision is one of acute self-awareness and humility. He exclaims, "Woe is me, for I am lost, for I am a man of unclean lips, and I dwell in the midst of a people of unclean lips, for my eyes have seen the King, the Lord of hosts." This statement is loaded with meaning. Isaiah's confession of his unworthiness and his recognition of his sinful state are central themes in biblical narratives, where encountering the divine often leads to an acknowledgement of one's own imperfections. The vision then takes a turn towards redemption and commissioning. One of the seraphim flies to Isaiah with a live coal in hand, taken from the altar, and touches the prophet's lips. This act symbolizes the cleansing of Isaiah's sin, preparing him for his prophetic mission. The seraph's words, "Behold, this has touched your lips. Your guilt is taken away and your sin atoned for," declare Isaiah's purification and readiness to serve as God's messenger. The symbolism of 6 wings, more than just feathers. In the annals of biblical imagery, few elements capture the imagination as vividly as the 6-winged seraphim described in Isaiah's vision. These wings, far more than mere appendages for flight, are rich in symbolism and theological significance, offering deep insights into the nature and role of these celestial beings. The seraphim's 6 wings are mentioned explicitly in Isaiah 6:2, where each seraph is described as having 6 wings, with twain he covered his face, and with twain he covered his feet, and with twain he did fly. This configuration is unique among angelic descriptions in the Bible, setting the seraphim apart in the hierarchy of heavenly creatures. The wings covering the face and feet of the seraphim are symbolic of their profound reverence and humility in the presence of God. By covering their faces, they acknowledge the unapproachable glory and purity of God. It's a gesture that signifies their understanding of the divine mystery, so overwhelming that even these exalted beings cannot bear to gaze directly upon it. Similarly, the wings covering the feet can be interpreted as a mark of respect. In ancient Near Eastern culture, the feet were often considered the least honorable part of the body. By covering them, the seraphim demonstrate their acknowledgement of their own creatureliness in contrast to God's divine holiness. It's a powerful statement about understanding one's place in the cosmic order, a gesture of submission and modesty before the Almighty. The remaining pair of wings, used for flying, symbolize the active service of the seraphim. These wings represent their ceaseless activity in the performance of God's will. They are not static worshippers, but dynamic participants in the divine drama, ever ready to respond to God's commands. Their flight is a metaphor for swift obedience, a visual representation of their role as messengers and executors of the divine plan. The 6 wings of the seraphim also carry symbolic meanings that transcend their literal interpretation. They represent the transcendence and immanence of God, the divine qualities of omnipresence and omnipotence. The wings signify the ability of God to reach into all corners of creation, with the seraphim serving as agents of this divine action. In Christian theology, the 6 wings have been linked to the 6 days of creation, suggesting a connection between the seraphim and the cosmic order. They are seen as guardians not just of God's throne, but of the entire created order, reflecting the harmony and balance inherent in divine creation. The depiction of the seraphim with 6 wings also serves as a bridge between the divine and human realms. In touching Isaiah's lips with a coal, the seraphim becomes a mediator of purification and prophecy. This act symbolizes the transmission of divine purity and truth to the prophet, enabling him to speak on behalf of God. The wings, in this context, are not just tools of adoration, but also instruments of divine-human interaction. Throughout history, the image of the 6-winged seraphim has captivated artists and theologians alike. In Christian art, they are often depicted in a manner that emphasizes their otherworldliness and their role in divine worship. These representations serve as visual reminders of the mystery and majesty of God, as well as the awe-inspiring nature of divine service. Seraphim in religious lore, beyond the Christian faith. While the seraphim hold a prominent place in Christian theology, their influence extends far beyond the boundaries of Christianity.
Though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels,
these celestial beings have left their mark in various religious traditions, illustrating the universal human fascination with the divine and the supernatural. Exploring the seraphim's presence across different cultures and faiths reveals a tapestry of beliefs and interpretations that enrich our understanding of these mystical entities. In Jewish tradition, the seraphim are integral to the angelic hierarchy, though their depiction differs slightly from Christian narratives. The Hebrew Bible refers to the seraphim in the book of Isaiah, but their roles and attributes are less detailed. Jewish texts often emphasize their fiery nature, interpreting the term seraph as burning or fiery. In Jewish mysticism, particularly in Kabbalah, the seraphim are associated with the Sephirah of Gevurah on the Tree of Life, representing God's power and judgment. This aligns with their depiction as fiery beings, symbolizing the intense, consuming aspect of the divine. In Islamic theology, the seraphim are mentioned, albeit not as prominently as in Christian or Jewish texts. Islamic angelology does not typically delve into detailed hierarchies of angels as seen in Christian and Jewish traditions. However, the concept of fiery celestial beings is present. In Islam, angels are created from light, and while the term seraphim is not explicitly used, there are references to creatures made of fire, which could be seen as analogous to the seraphim. These beings are noted for their purity and obedience to God, characteristics that align with the seraphim's portrayal in other Abrahamic faiths. In Eastern Orthodox Christianity, the seraphim are highly revered and are often depicted in religious iconography. Their portrayal emphasizes their role in the continuous glorification of God. In Orthodox theology, the seraphim's ceaseless chanting of "Holy, Holy, Holy" is seen as an eternal testament to God's unchanging nature. The divine liturgy of the Orthodox Church, replete with ritual and symbolism, often draws parallels to the heavenly worship conducted by the seraphim, creating a connection between the earthly and the divine. While not directly related to the seraphim, Zoroastrianism, one of the world's oldest monotheistic religions, has concepts of celestial beings that bear some resemblance. In Zoroastrianism, the Amesha Spentus are divine entities that serve Ahura Mazda, the supreme god. Like the seraphim, These beings are characterized by their devotion to God and their embodiment of various aspects of the divine. The parallels lie in their roles as protectors and embodiments of spiritual qualities, akin to the seraphim's representation of God's power and holiness. In contemporary times, the seraphim have transcended religious texts to become a part of popular culture and New Age spirituality. They are often depicted in literature, art, and media as powerful and mysterious figures, embodying the human fascination with the divine. In New Age beliefs, the seraphim are sometimes viewed as sources of spiritual wisdom and enlightenment, a deviation from their traditional roles, but indicative of their enduring appeal. Various mystical and esoteric traditions have also adopted the concept of the seraphim, interpreting them in unique ways. In some Gnostic texts, for example, the seraphim are seen as bearers of divine knowledge and guardians of sacred secrets. Their fiery nature is often interpreted symbolically, representing transformative spiritual knowledge that burns away ignorance. Seraphim in religious lore, beyond the Christian faith. The seraphim, renowned in Christian theology as the highest order of angels, also hold significant positions in other religious traditions. Their depiction and roles vary across these faiths, offering a fascinating glimpse into how different cultures and religions perceive these celestial beings. In Jewish tradition, the seraphim's origins can be traced back to the Hebrew Bible, where their fiery nature is first mentioned. The term seraphim comes from the Hebrew root seraph, which means to burn. In the Jewish context, the seraphim are often associated with the divine presence and divine cleansing. In the book of Isaiah, where the seraphim are most prominently featured, they embody the majesty and holiness of God, much like in Christianity. The Talmud and Midrash, key Jewish texts, offer further insights into the seraphim. They are described as angels of fire, each with 6 wings, echoing the descriptions found in Isaiah. However, in Jewish lore, the focus is less on their hierarchical status and more on their role as beings of purification and symbols of God's overwhelming power and purity. In Islamic tradition, angels are created from light, and the concept of fiery angels akin to the seraphim exists. While the term seraphim is not explicitly used in Islamic scripture, there are references to angels created from fire, which parallels the Jewish and Christian descriptions. These beings are portrayed as pure, obedient, and free from sin, reflecting God's divine will without question. Zoroastrianism, one of the oldest monotheistic religions, features celestial beings that bear a resemblance to the seraphim. The Amesha Spentas, or Holy Immortals, in Zoroastrian lore, serve Ahura Mazda, the Wise Lord, and represent various aspects of the divine. Like the seraphim, they are seen as guardians of God's creation, embodying virtues and principles that uphold the cosmic order. In Eastern Orthodox Christianity, the seraphim are deeply revered and often depicted in iconography. Their portrayal emphasizes their ceaseless chanting of the Trisagion, "Holy, Holy, Holy," which is seen as an eternal testament to God's unchanging nature. The Eastern Orthodox tradition often views the seraphim as the highest level of angelic beings, emphasizing their role in continually glorifying God and serving as models of ultimate devotion and worship. Across cultures, the seraphim have inspired artists, writers, and musicians, leading to a diverse range of depictions in art and literature. In medieval and Renaissance art, they are often portrayed as fiery, 6-winged beings surrounding the throne of God, echoing their biblical description. In literature, they have been depicted as symbols of divine love, justice, and power. In New Age spirituality and various esoteric traditions, the seraphim are sometimes interpreted in a more metaphysical light. They are viewed as high vibrational beings, offering spiritual wisdom and enlightenment. This perspective sees the seraphim not just as biblical figures, but as symbols of universal energy and cosmic truth. The cross-cultural fascination with the seraphim highlights a universal human curiosity about the divine and the supernatural. Their depiction across different faiths and traditions underscores a shared desire to understand the mysteries of the universe and the nature of divine beings. The seraphim's transcendent nature allows them to be adapted and reinterpreted in various religious and cultural contexts, reflecting the evolving human quest for spiritual understanding and connection. Seraphim and Humanity, a reflection on humility and holiness. The seraphim, as depicted in various religious traditions, stand not only as celestial beings of immense power and purity, but also as profound symbols reflecting the relationship between humanity and the divine. The interaction between the seraphim and humans, especially as seen in Isaiah's vision, provides deep insights into themes of humility, holiness, and the human quest for spiritual understanding and redemption. The pivotal encounter between Prophet Isaiah and the seraphim in the Bible is a rich source of reflection on human nature and divine holiness. Isaiah's vision in the temple, where he witnesses the seraphim singing praises to God, reveals his profound sense of unworthiness in the presence of such holiness. His exclamation, "Woe is me, for I am lost, for I am a man of unclean lips," reflects a deep awareness of his own sinfulness in contrast to God's absolute purity, as represented by the seraphim. The act of one of the seraphim touching Isaiah's lips with a burning coal from the altar is symbolic of divine purification. This interaction signifies the possibility of humans being cleansed from their sins and made worthy to stand before God. It is a powerful metaphor for the transformative power of divine grace, and how, despite human imperfections, closeness to the divine can lead to spiritual renewal. The seraphim's portrayal as beings of pure holiness and their role in Isaiah's purification speaks to the human longing for spiritual purity and redemption. Their existence challenges humans to reflect on their own lives, encouraging a journey towards holiness and a deeper relationship with the divine. The seraphim, in their unceasing worship and devotion to God, serve as a model for humans to aspire to, highlighting the virtues of humility, reverence, and the pursuit of spiritual perfection. The seraphim also embody the dichotomy of fear and fascination that the divine inspires in humans. Their awe-inspiring appearance and the power they wield evoke a sense of fear, yet their beauty and purity draw humans towards them. This reflects the complex nature of the human response to the divine, a mixture of reverence, fear, and longing. In many religious narratives, the seraphim are seen as mediators between the divine and the human realms. They not only serve God, but also play a role in the spiritual journey of humans. In Isaiah's case, the seraphim act as agents of divine forgiveness and calling. This mediatory role underscores the idea that while the divine may seem distant and incomprehensible, there are ways in which humans can bridge that gap with the help of celestial beings like the seraphim. Theologians and philosophers have long pondered the role of the seraphim in the broader context of human-divine relations. They are often seen as exemplars of the highest form of love and service to God, embodying the ideal relationship that humans should strive for with the divine. The seraphim's unwavering focus on God serves as a reminder of the central place that spirituality and devotion should occupy in human life. In art and culture, the seraphim are often depicted in ways that highlight their interaction with humanity. They are portrayed not just as distant, otherworldly beings, but as entities that have a direct impact on human affairs, symbolizing hope, guidance, and divine intervention. This portrayal reflects a deep-seated human desire to connect with the divine and find meaning in the presence of such celestial beings. The echoes of seraphim, cultural and artistic influence. The seraphim, with their enigmatic and awe-inspiring presence, have echoed through centuries of cultural and artistic expressions. Their depiction in religious texts has transcended the boundaries of spirituality, influencing art, literature, music, and popular culture. This chapter explores the multifaceted impact of the seraphim on human creativity and imagination. The influence of seraphim in visual arts is profound and widespread. In the realm of Christian iconography, they have been depicted in countless frescoes, paintings, and stained glass, often adorning the walls and ceilings of churches and cathedrals. Renaissance artists, fascinated by the blend of divinity and mystery that the seraphim represent, often portrayed them with a blend of reverence and artistic liberty, imbuing them with a sense of ethereal beauty and power. These depictions typically emphasize their fiery nature and the six wings, with an aura of holiness befitting their status as the highest order of angels. The seraphim have also found their way into the world of literature and poetry, where writers have used them as symbols of divine love, justice, and transcendence. In poetry, they are often evoked to convey a sense of the sublime and the ineffable, representing the highest ideals of spiritual aspiration and purity. Their fiery nature and role as messengers and worshippers of God provide rich metaphors for poets to explore themes of spiritual fervor, divine inspiration, and the human quest for the divine. In the domain of music, the seraphim have inspired composers to create works that capture their celestial essence. The hymns and chants dedicated to these beings often aim to replicate the heavenly chorus described in Isaiah's vision. Choral and orchestral compositions have been created to evoke the majesty and holiness of the seraphim, with many works designed to transport listeners to a higher plane of spiritual contemplation. In contemporary media, the seraphim have been portrayed in various ways, ranging from traditional interpretations to more fantastical renditions. In films, television shows, and video games, they are often depicted as powerful and mysterious figures, sometimes serving as guardians or guides. These portrayals, while often taking liberties with traditional descriptions, reflect the ongoing fascination with angelic beings and their perceived roles in the cosmic order. Beyond the arts, the influence of the seraphim extends into the religious practices of various faiths. In Christian liturgy, references to the seraphim and their worship of God are common, especially in the context of the divine mysteries and the celebration of the Eucharist. In Eastern Orthodox Christianity, the iconography of the seraphim plays a significant role in religious rituals and is integral to the visual language of the faith. In esoteric and mystical traditions, the seraphim are often seen as beings of profound wisdom and spiritual illumination. They are invoked in various ceremonial practices and are believed to hold keys to higher knowledge and spiritual awakening. This interpretation reflects a broader understanding of the seraphim as not just servants of God, but as intermediaries between the human and divine realms. The architectural influence of the seraphim can be seen in the design of many religious buildings, where motifs inspired by these celestial beings are incorporated. From Gothic cathedrals to modern churches, elements reminiscent of the seraphim's wings and fiery nature are often used to create an atmosphere of reverence and divine presence.